What if nobody in your life was an accident? Not the ones who loved you, not the ones who left, not even the ones who caused the most damage. I had a realization recently that made me cry. Not from sadness, but from the weight of suddenly seeing something more clearly that had always been true, but that I had never really been able to fully hold before. Source knew the points in my life where things were going to get hard enough to break me, and arrangements were made before I even got here for exactly who would be there when those moments came. There are people walking beside you right now who agreed to one of the hardest things a soul can agree to. Not to arrive dramatically at your lowest moment, not to teach you a painful lesson and leave, but to stay through all of it, in real time, choosing you over and over, without fully knowing why the pull is so strong. This episode is about seeing them, really seeing them, perhaps for the first time. So I want to invite you to do something before we go any further. Think back over your life, not the highlight reel, the real version. The moments where the ground fell out from under you, the losses, the endings, the transitions you didn't see coming, the times when you genuinely didn't know how you were going to get to the other side. And now think about who showed up. The friend who called at the exact moment you needed a voice. The person who appeared in your life right as one chapter closed and somehow helped you begin the next one. The one who sat with you in the darkness when they didn't have to, when you wouldn't have blamed them for walking away. But they didn't. They stayed. I used to call those moments lucky or blessed or timing. Now I have a different word for it. Arranged. Here's the download that came to me. The one that made me cry. Again, not from sadness, but from the feeling of finally seeing something that had always been true. Before I came into this life, Source and I and my spirit family knew the terrain of what was ahead. Not in every detail, but in the broad strokes of what this soul needed to learn. The emotional valleys, the financial cliffs, the physical challenges, the spiritual dark nights, the moments where the weight of being human in this particular life would be enough to break something open, or simply break. And in that space, before I arrived, arrangements were made, not casually, not randomly, but with precision, with love, with full awareness of what each of those moments would require, who would be needed, in what form, and at what exact point in the story. The friend who would hold me through the grief, the person who would challenge me into growth through friction I couldn't avoid, the one who would inspire me to push harder by simply living their life with such devotion that my own excuses became impossible to hold. The one who would heal something in me just by seeing me clearly. All of it arranged before any of us had names. The challenges of this life were always going to be significant enough that facing them alone on this plane of existence could break a spirit. Soul family wasn't a luxury. It was the infrastructure that made the journey survivable. Now here is the part that undid me completely. At the exact same time that these souls were serving me, I was serving them, simultaneously, bidirectionally, without either of us holding the full picture. I mean, think about that. The friend you showed up for at 2 a.m, the person you stayed with through their unraveling, the time you said exactly the right thing without knowing why those words came. The moment your mere presence was the thing that kept someone from falling. You weren't just being kind, you were keeping an agreement, one you made before you were born, to be there exactly then, exactly as you were. We are so woven into each other's lives that when you really sit with it, when you trace the threads back far enough, the architecture becomes visible, and it's breathtaking. You were not just living your life. You were fulfilling agreements with people who trusted you before this world began to show up for them the way that they were showing up for you. Now I want to talk about the people who are here right now, not the ones who came and went, not the ones who taught you through pain and then moved on, but the ones who are standing beside you today, in the middle of whatever this chapter is. Because I think that these are the agreements that require the most from a soul. It is one thing to arrive at someone's lowest moment and then be the light that gets them through it. It's another thing entirely to sign up for the long walk, to agree before either of you knew what this life would bring, to stay present through the uncertainty, the financial pressure, the doubt, the rebuilding, the seasons where your person goes quiet inside themselves and you love them through it anyway. The ones who are walking beside you right now, they made that agreement. They looked at the terrain of your life, all of it, including the parts you haven't even lived yet, and they said, yes, I'll be there for that. And here's what this understanding does when you really let it land. It makes you look at them differently. The person who has become so constant in your life that you've stopped seeing them, the miracle of their presence. The one who shows up so reliably that you've started to take the showing up for granted. The love that has become so familiar that you've forgotten it was chosen. I mean, it was chosen deliberately, consciously, with full knowledge of what staying would cost. And they chose it anyway, for you. The people walking beside you today are not background characters in your story. They are co-architects of your soul's evolution, and they agreed to play that role at a level of love that predates this life entirely. And now the piece that I believe is the most transformative layer of this entire framework. What about the ones who hurt you? I want to be precise here because this is not about excusing harm. It is not about reopening doors to those who have shown you clearly who they are. It is not about spiritual bypassing or performing forgiveness before you've actually felt the wound. But if every person in your life arrived within an arrangement, even if the most painful chapters were part of a curriculum that your soul designed before you got here, then the ones who caused the most pain may have taken on the most difficult assignments. Not because they were more spiritually evolved, not because their behavior was acceptable, but because sometimes the lesson that most needs to be learned can only come through a particular kind of friction. And someone had to agree to be that friction. That reframe does not erase what happened. It does not minimize the damage. It does not invite harm back into your life. But for those who are ready, for those who have done the work of feeling the wound fully, it can open a door, not to reconciliation or anything like that, but to release, to the kind of forgiveness that isn't for them. It's for you. The weight you've been carrying, that was never meant to be permanent. Forgiveness from this level of understanding is not weakness. It is the most advanced spiritual technology available to a human soul. It says, I see the agreement, I honor the lesson, and I release you and myself from the weight of what was always meant to move through, not stay. This is the consciousness shift this series is pointing toward. Not just the beautiful parts, the soul recognition, the impossible coincidences, the arrivals that feel like answered prayers, but the full picture. The understanding that every person who has ever moved through your life left you more capable of being who you came here to be. The ones who loved you built you. The ones who challenged you shaped you. The ones who stayed are still shaping you. And the ones who hurt you, when you're ready, taught you things that nothing easier could have. None of it was wasted. None of it was random. All of it, at the deepest level, was arranged with love. So tonight, or right now, or wherever you are, I want to invite you to do one thing. Look at the people walking beside you. The ones so close that you may have stopped really seeing them. And let yourself feel, even for a moment, the weight of what they agreed to. The love that existed before this life. That is still showing up daily in the form of their presence. And tell them, not in some grand gesture, but just tell them that you see them. That you know what their staying means. That you do not take it for granted because certain things, once understood, cannot be unseen. And this is one of them. Thank you, and I love you. I'll see you on the next one.